It's November and it's the start of the mushroom season here in Northern California. And it's impressive how many mushrooms I've actually been seeing. And I think it's because it's been super humid. I found this giant Agaricus californicus, which grows in the grass. And this was a giant one that I saw. It literally looked like it just popped out of the ground with all this dirt that's still left on top of its cap. But there isn't an annulus. I don't think it's poisonous. I also found these false turkey tails, which are really pretty. They're polyspores. They're super dense, like you can't really push them in, but they grow on decaying trees. I do think there are some real turkey tails if I go closer to the river on fallen logs and fallen trees, like I said, closer to the river. And then I found what I believe is a false chanterelle. You can definitely tell it's not a chanterelle. It doesn't have folds. It's got true gills, but it kind of has that almost ruffly like top, slightly yellow, definitely a little bit more white than a real chanterelle. Plus, we live in like inland, and chanterelles I think are definitely grow closer to the coastal regions. But then we do actually have a lot of bluets in the area that also like to grow in the grass. And you can tell they've got this definite gill pattern, but they have this kind of waxy top, sometimes almost lilac in color. This is a slightly older one. It's fanned totally open. I think these are edible, but I'm not eating any of these. I just like to look at them, take pictures of them, and just study them. And here is another bluet. You can kind of see the slight purpley sheen. This one's turned a little bit more tan in color, but this one's definitely been eaten up by bugs or something. So it's interesting. I don't think animals actually eat mushrooms, but bugs certainly do. But you can see where it likes to grow in this decaying matter at the base of a tree. And we look a little bit further, and there is a beautiful one, a newer one, just popping up out of the decaying leaves. And you can see this one right here has that perfect lilac sheen, and it's got that waxy top, and it has a nice firm like stalk on it. It's not a wimpy or weak little mushroom. But again, I guess I could pick these and eat them if I was so inclined. But this is where I'm finding these mushrooms. This is by the river. These are protected trails. There's no bike trails around here, which is really nice. But these are a bunch of oak trees. There's also a bunch of wild almond trees around here too. And as I was walking, I found what looked like a leaf, and lo and behold, it's another little mushroom. I have no idea what this mushroom is, but I just thought it was interesting because it literally looked like a fallen leaf on the path or on the grass by my path. And I like the gills. They kind of come all the way up and opened out. I bet when it was young, that top and cap was probably a little bit more conical versus now being flat. And then as I was walking by, there are always clusters of mica caps, which I just found out you can actually eat these ones, which frankly, they're kind of slimy, and I guess when you pick them, you have to cook them really fast because they auto-digest, meaning they start to break down. But it's definitely a mica cap. As these things get older, the gills turn black. When they're young or immature like this, the gills are maybe like a light gray. But they definitely grow in heavy clusters, so I always see them in heavy groupings. But again, not really inclined to eat these ones. They just really don't look that appealing. But I always find these little puffballs, which I know people do like to eat. Again, I'm not eating any of these, but it's always fun to find these puffballs, which like to grow in the grass. I just found out they're called wolf farts. Anyways, I just wanted to show the heavy amounts of grass, the green grass that's growing in November. And it's because it's not been super cold. It's not been really rainy. It's just been damp. And then I found these cute little caramel colored, very firm little mushrooms. I have no idea what these ones are, but they're right at the base of some decaying log. And again, this is actually in a little grove of wild almond trees. And Just look how cute that little button is and the gills inside of it. Guys, I could literally do this all day. I know it's Christmas time and I need to be prepping for the holidays, but frankly, I'd rather be out foraging for mushrooms and just looking at nature around me. Anyways, so I found a few more of them. Some of the heads had actually already snapped off, but this is just to kind of give you an idea of this little region. There's some decaying trees. Again, these are like, I believe, almond trees that have fallen because in the springtime they're covered in blossoms. And then lastly, right in my own front yard is the very deadly, very toxic death cap. This might actually be a yellow stainer, which is just as toxic, but you can see the remnant of the veil, you can see the vulva, you can also see the annulus, which hasn't even dropped because this is kind of a young or an immature one, but guaranteed, if it's got a skirt, if it's got a veil, and it's white in gills, it's mega poisonous, mega toxic, but it's still fun to see growing. I just make sure that obviously my kids know exactly what they're looking at. You definitely want to first know what your toxic mushrooms are if you're foraging around. So there you have it.